Kia ora, haere mai. Welcome to our monthly members meeting. Today we'll be talking about relationships. We will start with a karakia today. Tene au, te hapa nei, te tiri nei, te popu nei, toku reo. Mō toku mana, mō toku ihi, he mapihi, morea, ki mau, kia ita. Haumi, hui e, taki e. So we're going to talk about the benefits of relationships for our health. As humans, the relationships that we form with other people are vital for our mental and emotional well-being. Social support is an important part of being human, and the relationships that we have impact our health. The connection between relationships and physical health is one that is very strong. It involves various aspects, such as the structure of our social networks, the support we receive from others, the quality and quantity of our social interactions, and our feelings of isolation and loneliness. Recent research suggests that different social variables affect our health through separate mechanisms. So by understanding the complexity of social connections and the impact they have on our health, we can have an awareness of how relationships can either benefit or harm our well-being. Dealing with chronic conditions can put a strain on our relationships due to the limitations and unpredictability of the symptoms we can experience. So making and maintaining relationships can be quite difficult. Coping with a chronic illness is a daunting challenge, particularly when it comes to maintaining relationships with others. Any illness, especially a long-term condition, can have a profound effect not only on the person affected, but also their friends and family. As human beings, we are social creatures and we need social connections to survive. However, what can we do when we're too sick to interact with others, but still want to maintain those social connections? How can we explain the condition to others in a clear and understandable manner? And how can the loved ones of somebody who is ill remain connected to them during their time of need? Now, these are all questions that people with chronic illnesses, especially those who are poorly understood or carry negative stigmas, often struggle with. People with chronic conditions often experience struggles such as loss of relationships. Due to unpredictability in the symptoms, it can often be hard to maintain relationships. Some relationships run their course and end, whilst others have the potential to evolve and change. It is important to understand that losing a relationship does not mean it was necessarily a failure, as it is possible to redefine and strengthen relationships in different ways. Feeling misunderstood. Invisible illnesses can be difficult to understand by those who do not acknowledge the severity of the condition, whilst others may not believe that we are sick. Often this creates a feeling of misunderstanding. Guilt. You may blame yourself for feeling sick or unable to contribute to the relationship with friends and family. This is a feeling that is commonly known by many people who are unwell. Feeling unpredictable. Plans may have to be cancelled due to unpredictable symptoms, causing misunderstanding and risk to friendships. There's also fears of dependency and abandonment. You may fear losing your independence or relying on others. So what can we do to improve our relationships? If you have a chronic illness, some relationships will end and others will be redefined. You can consciously and deliberately navigate this transition using a relationship triage. This means focusing on the relationships that are more treasured or necessary. You can achieve this by gradually disengaging from social obligations that don't bring you joy and distancing from relationships that are not rewarding. Letting go of these relationships that don't serve you well can actually make room for more fulfilling connections. Changing the way that you socialize. Adapting how you socialize can impact relationships. Stay in touch via phone, email, text or Zoom when available or unable to go out. having boundaries around your time with others can be really helpful, as social interactions can use a lot of energy. So for example, setting a timer on a phone call so that you don't go over your time or your energy envelope can be really helpful. Socializing with a small group of people rather than a large gathering, or actually just limiting the time that you spend socializing altogether. Contributing towards the relationship. Understanding that the unpredictability of your symptoms can sometimes cause strain on your relationships, as the limits in energy may force you to cancel plans at a short notice. Expressing appreciation for those who can help or adapt to changes of plans in the last minute can be really helpful. Acknowledging that there are days when you won't feel like yourself can actually provide a moment of reflection. So try being open and honest about how you are feeling, coping, or your fears with those around you. Acknowledging that your role within your relationships may change and regenerate and renegotiate in what that looks like. Expectations, assertiveness, and boundaries. Sometimes we tend to do more than is expected due to our feelings of guilt or pressure from others. Accepting our limitations is really important. This solution might be changing your expectations of our limits or becoming more assertive. Learning boundaries and assertiveness can be a gradual process as you educate others about your limits. Being specific about your limits can be helpful, and remember, no is a complete sentence. Accept and offer help. Allowing others to help can be something that you can do, as many of our loved ones can feel helpless or uncertain about how to help the person who is ill. Equally, helping others can help a sense of self-esteem and create a feeling of reciprocity in a relationship. So what characteristics of social environments are beneficial to health? Social support. Social support refers to social networks that can offer psychological and material resources intended to benefit a person's ability to cope with stress. It can be differentiated in terms of resources, which can be instrumental, informational, or emotional. Now, when we talk about instrumental support, that refers to providing material aid, for example, helping someone with their daily tasks. Informational support refers to providing relevant information needed to help a person cope with the current difficulties that they're facing, and normally looks like giving someone advice or guidance when dealing with problems. Emotional support refers to expressing empathy, caring, trust, and reassurance that allows a person to vent or express their feelings during a stressful event or adversity. Social integration. Social integration is defined as participating in a broad range of relationships. It refers to actively engaging in various social activities or networks that provide a sense of communality and identification of one's social roles. For people with chronic conditions, finding that commonality with others who also have chronic conditions can be really helpful. Making connections with people who can instinctively understand your illness can create a bond that allows you to ask and provide help and understanding to others in similar situations. So how do our relationships and social environments improve our health? Social factors can promote health through two common mechanisms: stress buffering and main effects. Stress buffering refers to social connections that provide psychological and material resources to cope with stress. Social support is specifically beneficial for people going through adversity because it creates an interaction between stress and social support. As we know, stress can influence health by promoting behavioral coping mechanisms which are damaging to health. For example, some people drink more when they're stressed, or some people smoke more when they're stressed. This also activates physiological systems such as the sympathetic nervous system. A prolonged activation of these systems can actually place a person's health at risk. Current research suggests that an important factor in our social support operating as a stress buffer is the perception that others can provide the necessary resources to help us. This can actually strengthen our ability to cope with the demands, changing the way that we appraise a stressful situation and therefore lowering our stress levels and our response. For example, it reduces our psychological and physiological responses, as well as altering any maladaptive behavior reactions. Research evidence suggests that the way that we perceive our availability of social support provides a buffer for the physical effects of stress and psychological distress, such as depression and anxiety. Now, social integration can also be a predictor of physical health, as research shows that healthy adults who are more socially integrated have better health outcomes than their isolated counterparts. Now, this can be anything such as having a close family network or friends or belonging to a social group. Psychosocial factors such as social integration have also been associated with less susceptibility to clinical illnesses, as it helps improve the body's ability to fight off infectious diseases. So basically, it's good for the immune system. Now, it's important to remember that even though social networks and relationships provide emotional, information, and material support, they can also provide opportunities for conflict, stress, and feelings of loss and loneliness. Relationships can also create psychological stress and accompany behaviors and physiological increase of risk and disease. Isolation can be classed as a stressor that increases negative effects and a sense of alienation, loneliness and stress, whilst decreasing feelings of control and self-esteem. These negative psychological states can increase neuroendocrine and cardiovascular responses and suppress our immune function. It is always important to exercise self-care and reflect on how a relationship is impacting your life and your health, be it for the good or for the bad. Fostering honest, trustworthy, and respectful relationships can take time, but they bring you a sense of worth and belonging, helping you feel less alone. Kia ora, ngā mihi. Thank you for joining us today, and see you for our next meeting, which will be in February.